A brand new year, a brand new start. The same old... No, well, look, for some people, this is brand new. This is their first Veganuary. And if it's yours, well, welcome along. We've got some ideas for you. Sit tight. You can totally do this. We've got some of the best people possible to help you on your vegan journey. Rob Trounce is the marketing director for Purezza. It's the UK's first vegan pizzeria. It opened its doors in 2015 and went on to launch further restaurants in Bristol, Manchester, London and Hove. The company holds numerous accolades, including National Pizza of the Year. Not vegan pizza, right? Actual, just flat out pizza.
All the pizzas.
And one day my cousin's wife will listen to me saying that and she will order from there. It's just down the road from her. Also won Best Vegan Restaurant and awards from the World Pizza Championships. God, I can imagine it's a pretty hostile environment there, Rob.
There's a lot of mozzarella loving folks.
Yeah.
Over that away.
Yeah. I can imagine. And Sean O'Callaghan, he's a journalist, vegan activist, community organizer, and lover of fried potato. Well, welcome, brother.
Oh my God, sorry, I have.
The hell was that?
Okay, this. I have a clock with birds on it that goes off every hour on the hour, which is great most of the time, except when you are trying to do an intro to a podcast.
It's fine.
So
I thought that was some sort of sound effect to celebrate fried potato.
Yeah, I was like, oh, he rang the fried potato bell. It was brilliant.
Would you like to use that in your jingles for fried potatoes?
No.
That's it. That's the last you'll hear of that bird.
It was no. You can't. Obviously, as vegans, we love your bird. Of course we do. Yeah. Anyway, Sean is known to many as Fat Gay Vegan, which is also the name of his blog, now in its 11th glorious year. He curates and hosts vacations with vegan culinary cruises. He runs vegan food markets and events around London. He is really the soul of veganism in London, I would say. But welcome to you both.
Feels like I'm this kind of... I've got Beyonce and Katy Perry headlining with you, Jake, and Sean.
Yeah, I think we...
And I'm like... Jedward or something.
I'm more the Demis Roussos of the group, I think.
Well, we all sound spectacular, so it'll be good. Well, look, we've got lots of questions. It's Veganuary. It's a pun I'm still not entirely happy with, but a movement I can certainly get behind. And we're sort of wanting to help out lots of people who are comparatively new to veganism. The first question I want to ask you, we've been asking it regularly. What's the best vegan food you've eaten recently? Rob, let's start with you.
Ooh, can I sort of cheat and say three things, because they're all in the same day. They're all in the same day.
Amazing.
Okay,
of course you can.
So I went to check out No Catch, which is Earthling Ed's new restaurant on Brighton seafront.
Yeah.
Serving all things fish and chips, tofu fish and chips, I should say. Which was fantastic.
How was it?
Yeah, really, really good. Highly recommend. And the whole package is great. That's the thing. It's not just the fish. The chips are fantastic. Every part of it is brill. So.
Except not brill, because you would need brill as a...
There you go, yeah. Krill, brill, all of that, it's but just the toefish, go for that. But it's fantastic. And I also went to... So Brighton now has a vegan market once a month. And it's kind of showcasing those lovely, lovely little independents that sadly you can only get hold of once a month. And there is one called Plant the Seed. You've got to check it out. It does the first ever, to my understanding, vegan fried egg bap in the UK.
What?
Yes. And it does this lovely thing as well. I think it was about £7. Comes with, and they offer sausages or bacon or both, and at no extra price. And I can't imagine anyone who ever just goes, I just want the sausages.
No, fine, thanks.
It's got to be both. So fantastic. And also, so tiramisu from a brand called To the Moon and Snack, who are also at this vegan market.
The puns are so heavy in the vegan community.
It's got to be done, yeah.
Can we stop? We've got to stop the puns.
We just need to call ourselves something like, I don't know, vegan food restaurant. That's fine, that's all we need.
Okay, maybe you're right. Yeah.
But To the Moon and Snack, my friend I bumped into had picked up about 4 of these blooming tiramisus, opened his bag up, and it was like I could just see the light shining out, this golden light, this golden glow. He was like, "You've got to go and get these. You've got to go and get these." And I went, and she only had like two left, so I snapped them both up. Pistachio based tiramisu, It's fantastic. Yeah, so plant the seed into the moon and snack. Those are the ones to track down if you ever can.
Already following them on Instagram. Plant the seed. Have a lot of underscores.
A lot of underscores. Can you see the fried egg bap on there?
Yes, I can.
That's all they serve. So I hope they got a photo of it.
I'm going to need to have some quiet time alone with that photo. Sean, what's the best thing you've eaten lately?
Well, do I get to list 3 things as well? Or,
of course you do.
Okay. I'm jealous that Rob went first and did 3 things. I was going to up it to 5, but I thought that was a bit dramatic. I've been to a restaurant that I haven't been to in a long time, a cafe. And obviously haven't been there because of the pandemic, but there's a place called the Black Cat Cafe in Hackney. I don't know if either of you have been there.
Yeah.
Sorry, where is it?
In Hackney.
Oh, yeah.
In central Hackney. And it's a workers' cooperative. So it's cooperatively run, and it's the 100% vegan, and the food is absolutely delicious. And I went in for the full English breakfast, which in my book is always a winner. So much like the sausage bap for Rob is kind of like a go-to food that always impresses. For me, it's a full English breakfast, which is weird because I'm from Australia and we don't really have that down there. But they do actually have a fried vegan egg on their menu as well, which you can get in bread. So that seems to be a hot new trend in vegan eating.
Did you manage to work out what the fried egg is made of, Sean?
No, I don't know. Maybe Rob knows more about the food science of it. I'm really good at the consumer end of stuff. Whereas I think Rob, like the actual overeating of food. Whereas I think Rob's probably more informed about the food science side of things. I really don't know, but it has the texture of fried egg. And I've been vegan 20 plus years, so I don't really know if it tastes a lot like egg, but it looked and felt like egg.
Yeah. I haven't been able to work it out either. I'm pretty sure it's some sort of tofu blended with what I like to call fart salt. You know, that
Kalanamak, the black salt.
Hey, that's the real name, I think.
Yeah.
Not don't Amazon fart salt.
Fart salt. No, don't do that. Yeah.
But that stuff,
very progressive and inclusive of you, Rob, to call it fart salt.
That's what it's all about, of course.
Yeah, why not? Okay, very good. Well, look, let's get to some questions people have been writing in, and thanks very much. It's podcast@veganlifemag.com if you want to send us a question. Sarah says, I've been vegetarian my whole life, and for the last 2 years have been transitioning to the vegan lifestyle. I just can't quite get there. I would love some tips on how I can quit my cheat days. Sarah doesn't go on to say what her cheat days are. I mean, is she bloodletting from a zebra? Is she eating cheese? We don't know. But I guess, I don't know. Rob, let's start with you. Do you have cravings ever?
I don't now, although I think that's because a lot of the food has got so good and so close to those analogs. I totally understand where those cravings come from. Jake and I were just discussing before this started about I define myself. I've been vegan for 12 years, but I kind of define myself as still stuck in that phase where I'm eating those transitioning foods all the time. So a lot of people say, hey, burgers, sausages, sodium processed rubbish, you use that to transition in, and then you start making chia puddings and lentil dals all the time, and no, that's never happened to me. I'm still
I'm never gonna get it. If that's true veganism, I'm not doing that.
No. Give me all the soy and gluten, thank you.
Yeah.
But what I'd say to Sarah is first up, is there, is it about a kind of category of food, like cheese and chocolate, or is it like a specific dish that she really craves? Because you can always find recipes for those specific dishes. Things like if it's a lasagna that she's always after on those days that she feels like she wants to have that break, find a good recipe, get it in your recipe arsenal, and get ready to make it whenever you need it. If it's a category of food, it becomes a little trickier. But I think trying different brands of whether it's burgers, whether it's sausages, whether it's cheeses, whether it's chocolates, finding those brands that kind of nail it for you. I think that always helps. But I suppose it's also worth keeping a log of what is it that causes that sort of cheat day to happen. Is there something that triggers it? Is it because she's tired? Is it because she's stressed, and just goes and wants to pig out on something? At which point, can you work out what the sort of trigger for it is, if you like, and then deal with it accordingly.
Yeah, that's a good tip. What about you, Sean? I mean, vegan for 20 years. Do you crave things?
I do crave things, but like Rob said, there's so many good analogs or replacements now that if I do have a craving, I can go for it. I can eat chocolate, I can eat chips, I can eat bacon sarnie or whatever it is. But I also agree that, kind of be kind to yourself. I do like the idea of the log, but to me, I'm a very lazy person. That sounds like a lot of hard work. Picking up a pencil, laboriously writing a few lines down. It sounds like a lot of hard work when you could be eating. But I think places like Purezza and Temple of Satan, and disclosure here, I do some work with them. Having food that...
I do some work with them, by which I mean I give them money to make me food.
Yeah, right. I stand outside and tap on the window. I think those sorts of foods that replicate what we loved before we were vegan, such as pizza or fried chicken, are really great sort of gateways into feeling comfortable and enjoying your veganism. And I think there's a real secret there, is create opportunities for yourself where you feel, emotionally nourished as a vegan, because it can often feel like you're left out. Well, certainly when I went vegan over 20 years ago, I felt left out a lot. But now there are so many opportunities being created by people like Temple or Unity Diner or No Catch or Purezza that are giving you that almost like a cultural or social experience that you feel like you've missed out on as a vegan. So dive into those opportunities and invite your non-vegan friends to come along with you and see how much fun you can have as a vegan. And also, give yourself a good reason to be vegan. Make sure you understand the reasons why you're adopting a vegan lifestyle, and hopefully it's to protect and improve outcomes for animals. And once you have that connection between your heart and your mind, it's easier to stay vegan.
That's a really good point. I mean, there are lots of accounts worth following on Instagram, which are all about being vegan for the animals and stuff. And yeah, it can be quite a sharp reminder sometimes why it is you're doing it. I think that's a great note about being kind to yourself as a vegan, and kind of looking after the emotional side, because food and emotion is always so closely tied up. The other thing I would say is that for me, what I found worked for me and for so many people, cheese, because it is literally addictive, was the hardest thing to kick. And for me, it was 10 years ago that I turned vegan, and fake cheese technology was very poor in those days. It did not taste good. It tasted like a combination of margarine and tears. Mine mainly. And but what I found was that I went cold tofurkey. So I did, I think, about 6 weeks where I just didn't taste any cheese products. I wasn't eating cheese. I was vegan. But if you can go without those products for 6 weeks, then try one of the fakes, and it's amazing the frantic synaptic knitting that your brain then does, and it kind of goes, is that cheese? Is that cheese? Yeah, okay, sure, okay, that's cheese. All right, fine. Not quite how I remember. Is that how? But your brain, your palate changes. To me, soy milk just tastes creamy and delicious. It doesn't taste like wet cardboard the way it does to any new vegan. It does happen. You do change, but it's worth kind of giving your palate a break before you kind of then reintroduce some of the fake stuff.
I suppose it's kind of learning to appreciate some of those kind of different flavors as well. Some of the fake stuff is super, super close, and yet some of the cheeses, if you bite into them and don't try to imagine, trying to compare them to Gouda or Edam or whatever, and instead you just go, okay, this is a similar creamy, salty, delicious food stuff that I can melt into a sandwich, then great. It might not taste identical, but it still tastes great. If there's one thing I would name drop as well, the vegan kind has everything you could ever imagine for those cravings. You know, you can easily stock yourself up with pizzas, burgers, chips, crisps, chocolate, everything, and they've got every brand under the sun. You can pack your pantry. Do you say pantry? Is that
sure?
I'm going to go with
I mean,
pantry.
no one has them anymore, but
no,
sure.
No, but I just like the alliteration. Pack your pantry full of vegan goodies.
Yeah, you're so right. It's often about what's just there, and the ubiquitousness of non-vegan food is sort of what keeps it going, I think, a lot. Let's move on. Adrian says, I'm a new vegan from watching the David Attenborough documentary. David Attenborough. That's him now. Anyway, I'm finding it much easier than I thought it would be. Hey, great. The summer just gone. I went on holiday and I really struggled with just pasta and chips every day. Yeah. And I must say, I did eat fish. I feel so bad about this and I'd love to do better next time. Could I please have some tips for vegan holidays, please? Of course you can. Sean, let's start with you.
Well, I have found it increasingly easy to go on vegan vacations and holidays. But I have been using, for probably close to 2 decades, the Happy Cow app, which we're probably all familiar with if you've been vegan for a few years. So if you don't know, happycow.net is a user-driven database of vegan and vegan-friendly businesses all over the planet. And it is probably not completely exhaustive, but it is pretty close to it. And no matter where you are on the planet, if you use the Happy Cow website or app on your phone, you can find somewhere vegan or vegan friendly to eat. And it has gotten me out of a few jams on the road. And I can't recommend it highly enough. But apart from that, my number one tip is to stay in self-catering if you're going to be somewhere a while. So if you do need to cook for yourself, you've got all of the appliances and everything there. And you can even then dip into the local cuisine yourself by looking up recipes online and going and shopping in the shops for the fresh produce and cook for yourself. But really, that is in the past, I think. I think now that there are so many vegan options when you're out and about, it isn't that difficult. And just learn a few phrases in the local language, like sin leche, sin huevos, wherever you're going, Find out how to say, I don't eat milk, I don't eat cheese, I don't eat fish. And most places will be accommodating to you. Vegan isn't a dirty word like it was 20 years ago. And people understand and are a lot more willing to look after you when you're a traveler.
Yeah, I definitely remember, some European countries, if you went there and said you were vegan, they'd look at you like you just spat on their national flag. But it has hugely changed, hasn't it, Rob?
Yes, indeed. I think, echoing what Sean was saying, self-catered Airbnb, things like that, and getting in, indulging in the local produce, cooking fantastic meals. One thing I'd say is that when you get more into it, you can even build a bit of a holiday or a trip away around veganism, around places you want to eat. Back in the heady days of 2011, 2012, my partner and I went to Berlin 2 years running because at the time I would wager Berlin was the city for vegan food, and we went, did all the tourist stuff. Every lunch, dinner, we'd stop at a different location and eat out. So you can even build your holiday around that. But yeah, Happy Cow, and also bearing in mind, if you're in the UK or many Western countries will have chain restaurants that are now adopting veganism, vegan items onto their menu. I think recently it was announced Wagamama's have gone 50% plant-based, I believe.
Yes, I think so, yeah.
So, that stuff is everywhere. You'll find vegan options on most chain restaurants. But yeah, always where possible, as Sean said, grab Happy Cow, check out the independents. I think the only other thing I'd say is, you can actually get an explanatory card. So going back to what Sean was saying about the language.
Okay.
It might take a little googling, but I'm sure it might even be hosted on the Happy Cow website. But there is a kind of vegan explanatory card that you can download that sort of says in kind of non-judgmental language. It's not sort of saying I'm an animal rights champion and your food's murdering all the animals. It just says, I don't eat meat, I don't eat dairy, I don't eat eggs. Can you cook something for me? And you can bring that, and maybe you'll get told to go away and F off. But hey, maybe, as I've been around Asia, I've been to China and India and found vegan eating extremely easy because people are very accommodating to those choices. They may not have that word in the lexicon. They may not say veganism in such a way, but they will understand not putting, that if you have requirements, they will cook around it. So sometimes it's explaining it in that way rather than just looking for a nice V symbol on the menu.
Yeah.
And in my intro, Jake's intro for me, you talked about me being involved in vegan culinary cruises. So there is a rise of vegan curated vacation and holiday opportunities. So if you really want to experience that and you've got the money to do it, you can go on a 100% vegan vacation or cruise. So there's always that option as well.
It's a great idea. I'd say I did a sort of resort holiday about 3 years ago. And they can be quite good if there's like a buffet option, because then you can just load up with whatever you want from the buffet. What we did was we did sort of enhance it with some stuff that we packed. We were those classic British people with suitcases full of baked beans and loaves of bread. I mean, that's not what we chose, but I found like peanut butter. Very often you don't get that abroad, and that can be really sustaining. Also, in Asian supermarkets, there are amazing sort of tofu-based snacks. They're all kind of like portion wrapped and stuff, and they're really kind of savory and proteiny and have that kind of dense kind of chew to them that I think you can sometimes miss if you're not eating like a bit of tofu or something. Sometimes you just crave that real hit. And they can be great because they're long life, you don't have to refrigerate them, and you can just fill your suitcase with them. That would be my tip. Gianna says, my friends always take the rise out of me being vegan. Well, you need some new friends then, don't you, Gianna? I'm sorry. And I can never think of a good argument back without sounding like a cliche vegan. I'd love some good pointers to help me stick up for what I believe in so strongly. Oh, that is hard, isn't it? Rob, do you get that?
I don't so much anymore, but because, you joke about getting new friends, but I think, it's something that can be worth doing. And it doesn't mean you're going to neglect the old pals, but, you can meet new friends who are more accepting of that way of life, balance out some of that negativity a bit, and realize that veganism, it's very easy to get sucked into it in a way that becomes a big part of everyone's life. I think for nearly everyone who's vegan, they would say it is a big part of their lives. And yeah, sometimes when we have friends that aren't interested in that, at the very least, perhaps are even actively derogatory towards it, then it can be quite tiring, it can be quite challenging, but there are social groups like the ones Sean runs, and you can find things like meetup.com. I've found vegan groups on there, Facebook groups as well that will often host physical meetups, so meet some new people, balance out that, and realize that maybe that set of friends you already have are great for certain things, but they might never be hugely accepting of that way of life. But equally, I think for a lot of people, veganism is it's a journey. I think most of us aren't out and out psychopathic animal killers who we are kind of open to the idea. I remember before I went vegan, I was kind of vehemently anti-hunting. I'd attend anti-fox hunting marches, all that kind of stuff, and it only started to click with me, that there was I wasn't doing enough, really, as it were. So we're all on a kind of spectrum, I like to think of it as, and people are forever working towards a more ethical and moral way of life. So I'd say it's also about just being there for those friends that, on occasion when they might start to question things, just being able to say, look, try meat-free Mondays. Try, if they ever ask questions, don't put up walls or anything like that. Be open to those conversations, and help them if they do kind of start to ask those questions. But I also think one of the best arguments is food, and there is so much great food out there now that being able to kind of showcase great vegan options without ramming the moral and ethical arguments behind veganism down people's throats. Instead, you can just ram lovely vegan food down people's throats instead, and that'll do the trick. And sometimes that opens a conversation. Sometimes it's about getting people to realize that this stuff isn't all just lettuce and hummus anymore. There's some amazing food out there. So it's a great way to open it for people.
Yeah, I think I'm done with hummus. Sean,
I'm not probably as kind as Rob. I think the saying, if I can't change the people around me, I change the people around me, and I don't want people to make fun of me for anything, whether that's being vegan, whether that's for being a Lady Gaga stan, or whether that's being a chubby homosexual. If somebody's got something negative to say about me or something that I love or something I believe in, and they want to repeatedly do that, I don't want to be around them. And I know that's hard because, we don't always, cut off people for having different beliefs. But I think it veers away from just having different beliefs or lifestyle choices when people actively mock you. And so I would say, like any good friend, I would take them aside and say, in a private conversation and say, hey, do you realize this is how it makes me feel? And I'd rather you not do it. Yeah. And if they respond to that, that's great. You can work from that. And like Rob said, that might even be an opportunity for vegan outreach. You never know. But also, try starting your own comedy roast with your friends. If they want to throw a few zingers at you, start picking on the way they dress, or start making fun of them back, and give them a taste of their own medicine. But I'm like, no matter what you're doing in life, if someone wants to make fun of you for it when they know it makes you feel bad, they might not be your friend.
That's a hard truth. There was a brilliant article written by David Mitchell, the comedian, who I think the headline of it was something like, "The most annoying thing about vegans is they're right."
Oh yeah,
and that is the thing. They're mocking you, but they know that you're right, and that's why they do it. It's kind of like being the first person to quit smoking in a social circle. The last thing they want is for you to do that, because what you're doing is implicitly calling out their harmful behavior. I mean, smoking is a different issue, obviously, but it's the same principle. And that's why you're being attacked, is because you are pricking something very uncomfortable in their consciences. So you can almost take the pious route and pity them. But everyone's a pre-vegan.
That's it.
But I think that the other thing that I know that you want some kind of some zingers and some great right back at you high fiving comedy things. But I think that you can sort of say to them, look, it's almost like it's as close. To me, it's as close as you get to a religious belief. It is a core value system, veganism. That actually does join up with every other value that I stand for. I stand against homophobia and misogyny and racism. And so all of those things to me are intersectional, and they are all connected. So, they probably haven't done all of that thinking about veganism. They're just like, oh, why won't you eat a steak? And I don't really like to think about it, and I don't like it when the blood collects in the tray when I buy it in the supermarket. I don't eat much red meat anyway. They're all the same. So, you're ahead of the curve, and it's a question of whether or not they come along with you.
But it's okay to, there are two different things going on here. You can want someone to be vegan, but you can also want them not to tease you about being vegan.
Absolutely.
And so it's okay just to say, hey, whether you're ever going to be vegan or not, just lay off. Stop having to go at me about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a certain level of respectfulness that your friends do owe you. I think it probably gets more challenging in things like family circumstances where, as the old adage goes, you can't choose a family. But it's in those circumstances, just embrace it. Just get a nice T-shirt that says, "I'm vegan, so I'm better than you," or something
exactly.
like that.
And if you can't get along with friends and family for these reasons, do what I do and move continent.
Yeah.
I'll leave the last word to Kate Emmett, who was a guest on the very first episode of this podcast, who just very dryly said, How do you know if someone knows a joke about vegans? Oh, don't worry, they'll tell you within the first 5 minutes. Which is a nice sort of riposte. Good luck, Gianna. And hey, you've always got a friend in us. Erin says, I'm the only vegan in the house. Oh, that's tough. And my teenage kids just won't eat my vegan food. I would love for my whole house to be vegan, but it's easier said than done. Could I please have some yummy meals I can cook for my family that would be a good transition meal? Rob.
Yeah.
So you converted your partner, right?
I did.
How did
I'm
you do
guilty of that. The full story. I went vegan back in 2010. My university did a thing called Vegan for Lent, which was kind of it wasn't a religious affiliated thing. It was just a kind of precursor to veganuary. I feel it was a 40 days try veganism, and people could do it as part of a campaign and raise sponsorship for a charity of their choice. A bit like running a marathon, shoving a sponsorship form under people's noses and saying, I'm going vegan, it's going to be really tough. Can you give me a $5?
And that's how we all talk.
That's of course, yeah. Certainly I did, but until I went vegan and my voice developed properly, it's fine. So I did that, and she did it the year after, and both of us came out the other end thinking, yeah, that was all right actually, and just stuck that way ever since. So I think it obviously helps. It obviously helps when you've got people around you who are vegan. So for my partner, she saw, well, I was cooking, I was feeding her, making her eat. At the time, the what you described as the soy and tears flavored cheese, all that kind of stuff. And again, that stuff's got a lot better now. But she ate her fair share of yummy vegan food and atrocious vegan food with me. But we were kind of learning the ropes together, despite her not classifying herself as vegan. And so she'd been vegetarian many years before that. So yeah, I think transitioning certainly helps when you've got people around you who are introducing you to these foods. But I think if you've got slightly more resistant people, like it sounds like the teenagers are, getting some of those more transitioning, those foods that are focused on helping people transition, such as burgers, such as sausages, finding those kind of classic recipes for dishes like shepherd's pie, for dishes like lasagnas, introducing some good old soy mince. You could even spike their meal with pea protein mince, before they even know, and then as they're tucking into it, say, hey, do you know that's a vegan meal?
By the way,
that's a bit of soy mince in there. How you feeling? How you feeling about that? But you can also use tricks to kind of to introduce them more slowly. Maybe try introducing something like meat-free Monday in the household. See if they would be open to doing one day initially in the week, and then seeing if you can take it further. I think part of it is actually also reframing the goal a bit. Maybe not thinking, how do I turn my whole household vegan, but maybe start with a goal that's a bit more achievable along the lines of how do we transition into eating vegan dinners together. How do we start with that, and not thinking about outside of those times, not worrying about what they eat. But start with the vegan dinners and see if you can help them, see if you can get them to kind of subscribe to that a little bit. Maybe it's 3 days a week, maybe that becomes 5 days a week, it becomes 7 days a week, and then, hey, you know what? They start eating more vegan lunches, etc. So I think those kinds of things, and actually, just playing into those favorite meals. If they've got, you'll hopefully know your own kids' favorite meals. If you've got some that they love eating, can you find some nice recipes online or in recipe books? Do veganized versions of those. Go from there.
Sean,
well,
everyone vegan in your household, babe?
No, they're not. My husband is not vegan. And it's interesting that I don't sort of, have to tiptoe around it. We eat, I eat 100% vegan all the time, obviously. And my husband eats vegan probably around 95% or more of the time. And it's just because we don't have infinite funds. We have to eat what we can afford to eat. And if I had teenagers, you best believe I'd tell them that if they don't want to eat what I'm cooking them, they can go out and make it themselves. I know that sounds really old-fashioned, but teenagers are capable humans, and if they want to eat meat or dairy, I would suggest that they get cooking it themselves. Otherwise, they learn to be happy with the vegan alternatives being given to them. But on a kinder note, and not being so hostile, I would say Rob's idea of cooking to their likes or what they're used to is a really good way of easing people into it. And I found that with my husband, him not being vegan, when I cook food that is comfort food or that people just generally respond well to, that's the stuff he loves. But when I try and do something very clever or try and trick him into having some intricately designed vegan menu, he doesn't really like it. But when I do things like a tuna bake, he'll go back for seconds and thirds. Or if I do a Sunday roast dinner with the trimmings and the gravy, he'll love it and he'll want it again. So it's creating food that just feels good. But there is an added complication for me in that my husband is Mexican. And so he thinks all food in England tastes like rubbish or has no flavor. So it does help to have a few bottles of habanero sauce in the fridge or hot.
It's true
hot
though
sauce.
that everyone responds to carbs. You really can't go wrong with carbs. Potatoes, pastas, rice puddings even. I would say, I mean, Erin, this isn't really addressing your question, which was just, can you give me some ideas for meals? But you could do a deal and you could say, look, there's no question that the food you're talking about eating is delicious and mouth-watering and savory and wonderful. I'm not going to fight you on that. Of course. So what kind of lunatic am I that I'm not eating it and that I'm, saying, oh, I don't want to cook that food for you? Here's the deal. You sit down with me and watch Earthlings or Cowspiracy or whatever. And if you still want it, I will cook it for you for a week. And, you have to be prepared for them to double down and say, yeah, I didn't care. I don't care. But, inside there's little crying 7-year-olds. Like,
Oh, they would totally watch it. And I mean, and then just out of spite, that's how teenagers are.
Sure, but you may germinate a seed in there, and then at least you can kind of go, well, now you know why I'm doing it, and I think it does come back to that thing of, it's not just some arbitrary thing that, I've decided I'm not going to eat whelks. I don't know, it's not arbitrary.
But
anyway, good luck, Erin. It is hard though.
I feel it is reasonable. Like, you want to provide for your children, and teenagers are still children. You want to provide for them, so teach them about shopping for animal products. Give them the money. They can go in budget, buy it, and they can come home and cook it. And you can say to them, anytime they don't want to cook, you'll cook for them. And you can make all the delicious things like burgers and like tuna bake, all the vegan forms of that. But if they want to eat meat and dairy, they can learn to do that. And, you can give them the money to do it. But I think that's reasonable.
I think, the path of least resistance. If there's yummy food and it's there and it's cooked versus them having to go out and buy it and stuff, it might work. But it is tough. The other thing I would say is don't fret too much for too long, because, you hear stories about kids who are raised vegan who then go and eat meat with their friends because they, there's peer pressure and they don't want to miss out. And then as they get a little bit older and a little bit more confident, they kind of go, actually, no, this isn't what I stand for. And they come back to veganism. So, it's a long game, and try to pace yourself and don't fret over each battle.
I think just one of the things as well I'd add is just around the working out what it is they're resistant to. Is it veganism itself, or is it they just don't like the food? In which case, arguably the latter is easier to deal with, because you can always find tasty things they'll be into. But it may just be that you're cooking this amazing food already, and they're just going, soya mince. I want real cow. At which point,
that was the voice.
That's the voice. It's back again. It's back. It's
smashed it. It's brilliant.
But as Sean said, teenagers can be recalcitrant little twits at times. So you gotta.
And to be and to be controversial here, it could be that the listener is just a bad cook.
Shots
and nobody
fired.
wants to eat their
No
food.
one's suggesting that, Aaron. No one's suggesting
Is this
that.
where we suggest frying things? I think it's, you can
it
always
actually
fry
is.
things. Always fry things.
Fry
They'll be delicious.
everything. Let's move on. Erin, you're a great cook. Jamie says, I love this question. What are good spice and herb blends for tofu? I love trying new blends. This is a great question and getting back into the core of this podcast, which is generally about good food and how to eat it. Rob, what do you like to spice up your tofu with?
So in terms of herbs and spice blends, that's a tricky one. I'm a sauce demon. So can I cheat and talk about?
Yeah,
sauces?
Of course you can.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, obviously all the kind of classic Asian variables are on from hoisin sauce, Thai green curry, whatever, tofu in it all. I think there's an art, to me there's an art to cooking tofu correctly, and when you do, it doesn't really need its kind of any spice blends or anything like that. It just needs to be cooked bang on and then slathered in a delicious sauce. My pro tip is a sauce that is called. I hope that this stuff sells out now because it is phenomenal. I feel like it's my little secret to everyone, but it's called Lee. So there's a brand called Lee Kum Kee that do an array of like Asian sauces. They have one that is called I wouldn't be able to spell this, but Chu Chow Chili Oil. That's it. Chu Chow Chili Oil, and this stuff is phenomenal. I started eating on tofu. It's kind of perfect. Like it's very hot, so if you're not into spicy food, ignore everything I'm going to say for the next 30 seconds. But it is very, very hot. But it's got this lovely kind of umami, sort of salty flavoring that it's kind of paired with.
Is it kind of like that Lao Gan Ma stuff?
Maybe that's another set of words.
That I would eat that by the spoonful. That stuff is incredible.
So it may well be very, very similar to that. But yeah, basically what Jake said and what I just said: smother tofu in that, and you're probably going to have a good time. So yeah, I would say. I'd say yeah, sauces is where it's at for me. But learn to cook it perfectly. Do all the drying, heat your oil up properly, get it really hot, chop it up into nice little cubes, and I kind of cook it. I do sort of like sandwich triangle shapes, and I cook it for 5 minutes each side. So it fries for quite a while, and the end result is lovely, chewy, firm tofu. Slather it in sauce, and you're away.
Sean.
I'm shaking from hunger. All this talk is making me ravenous. But that's just another morning for me. But I
3 o'clock in the afternoon, Sean. You're such a party boy.
I told you I just got out of the shower. You're going to have to cut this whole section out.
No, that's all staying in. Carry on.
Okay. For me, having the Mexican husband that I referred to before, has led me down some interesting chili path. So I really enjoy taking a Chipotle chili, which is, if you don't know, it's a smoke-dried jalapeno chili. So it's the dried version of the jalapeno. And I like taking that and popping it in like a blender or a spice grinder with some nutritional yeast to keep it really vegan, and put a touch of pink Himalayan salt in. And so if you grind them up together into like a powder, it's delicious to sprinkle over anything, but especially freshly fried tofu cubes. So if you take your tofu and you crisp it up in oil while it's still hot and glistening, sprinkle over this little chipotle dust, and it is incredible. And I also use this spice blend for putting on popcorn as well. So I like the combination of the smoky, slightly spicy chili with the cheesy flavor of the nutritional yeast, and then a little bit of the pink Himalayan salt. To me, that is delicious. I sometimes even put it on popcorn to sneak into the cinema because I like the taste of it better than what they give you at the cinema.
I got time for that. I'm going to go in a completely different direction. I'm going to say maybe fry it, but not to the point where it's super, super crispy. Just kind of warm it, and so it's just slightly starting to change color a little bit. And then I'd say in another little pan, melt some vegan butter and chuck in some fines herbs, which is like tarragon and dill and chervil, I think, and other stuff. And that's going to get it. What you'd have would be very much like a sort of like a Dover sole, that kind of like that herb butter that you get. I think that could be really good. And really, it's look at any traditional herbing that you get and spicing for any kind of like fish or chicken, and just try those. See what you think. You can Google secret blends of herbs and spices for mainstream chicken outlets and give those a go. But yeah, don't hold back. Let's move on. Hannah says, in terms of milk, should I be using different kinds of milk for baking and different ones for sauces? At the moment, I use soya milk, and I have to be honest, it isn't my favorite. Sean, what do you use and for what?
Well, isn't it weird how soya milk, which I actually call soy milk as an Australian, but I'll go with the flow and the crowd and say soya. Isn't it weird how much it's fallen out of favour recently?
Has it?
Yeah, I really think people prefer almond or oat. And I've even noticed that the choices for soy milk in the supermarket seem to be becoming less, while the other plant-based milks are growing in popularity. And saying that, I'm actually an oat milk fanatic. And if you're in the UK, there's one in particular that I adore, and it's the one you can buy in the cooperative supermarket. I don't know if we're allowed to do brands. Advertising.
Well, you already had a go with the Seitan place, so Temple of Seitan.
Was that Temple of Seitan that has the delicious fried chicken I was talking about?
Yeah.
Actually, who has a location right next to Purezza in Camden.
Yeah.
So people can get both of them up in one go.
Do the double, right. Back to your co-op milk then.
Okay, so my co-op milk, it's less than £1 for a carton, for a litre. And it's the most delicious, the creamiest vegan milk that I've had since I've gone vegan. So I won't have anything else. And of course, with all the Brexit shortages, I have to go down and buy 20 cartons at a time, and then that lasts me for 2 months. But to me, oat milk works the most like dairy milk. And now, so I'm not a food scientist, and I don't know if there's any substance to what I'm talking about, but I make bechamel sauce, or I use it in cereal, or my husband uses it in coffee. And to me, oat milk replicates what dairy milk does, sort of the closest. And so to me, I always recommend oat milk. But that said, I did have to suffer through the early years of veganism, like 22 years ago, where there was only soy milk, and there was one carton in the whole of the UK, and it was sweetened with apple juice or something, and it was a little bit powdery. So this oat milk to me is like a revelation. It's taken me to a level of veganism that I never thought possible. So oat milk all the way.
That was very lyrical. Rob, what about you?
I think the milk that you use for sauces big time matters. I mentioned some of the atrocious meals that my poor partner ate in my early days of experimenting with veganism, and probably if she was here, she'd tell you the highlight or the top 3 worst things she's probably ever eaten was a lasagna I made, where I completely neglected to think about the difference between sweetened milk and non-sweetened. I made this sort of lasagna with sweetened soy milk, and it was like eating a lasagna covered in custard.
I've got no problem with that. Ain't got no problem with that.
Hey, yeah, it's tomato and custard.
Oh, now I want to make a sweet lasagna. Oh my God, with like strawberry jam and custard.
This is like brainwave. Ding, 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 ding. This is.
Oh my God,
suddenly,
come on.
This could be a thing. Not so good when you've got courgettes and tomato sauce and
probably
and
less.
whatnot.
Yeah.
But and on that note, if I can go on a quick side story as well, I also put in bread yeast, thinking that was the same as nutritional yeast. Again, 2010, it was a different time, right? This is the thing,
sure.
It's like Sean was saying, I remember those difficult days of crawling to the back of a health food store, finding the dusty cartons of milks. But
they were dark days. I remember fist fighting people from the last Tofurkey.
But yeah, I think in terms of milks, I would agree the oat milk for me is the go-to, and actually. Yeah, I agree with Sean. The co-op one. Co-op have done a lovely thing recently. I don't know if you guys saw in the news. They have sort of announced that all their vegan ranges are going. They're trying to get everything get price parity with their non-vegan foods. So
that's good.
So it's bringing everything down to a kind of more acceptable level instead of paying a 40% premium for vegan things.
Well, kudos to the co-op for that. Taste the milk powder out of your salt and vinegar crisps. But yeah, that's great. They're doing well there.
The one, speaking of slightly out of favor or untrendy foods though. Now, one thing I would say is I make a lot of sauces with good old canned coconut milk. You remember that stuff? Nice, beautiful, thick sauces that you just use that stuff. It's great. Yeah.
I think it's always good to kind of look at the actual base ingredient for the milk and think, how well does it pair with the ingredients I'm cooking? You might think maybe an almond milk might be good in a lasagna. I don't know. I'm not a fan of almond milk at all. I agree that oat milk kind of behaves really well. It's got a nice, thick, fatty creaminess to it. The almond milk to me is just very thin, and I don't find it very enjoyable. But as you say, coconut milk is perfect for any kind of Asian cooking, rice milk, I guess.
Rice milk is, we make a lovely mozzarella out of rice milk at Purezza.
There you go.
I can tell you that.
There you go.
But I think the one thing I would say almond milk is great for, it's slightly out of baking and sauce territory, but smoothies. You ever done that? You ever tried to make a lovely thick smoothie with anything other than almond milk, and you kind of get this effect where you sort of vertically hold the smoothie above your head as it sort of falls towards your face. Whereas almond...
How do you think I wallpapered my front room?
A good old chia smoothie. Yeah, great. That'll do it.
Enjoy, Hannah. Do some experimenting and let us know what happens. Jess says, I'm based in London and I'm the only vegan in my group of friends. Well, maybe we should hook you up with Gianna. Anyway, I would love to take them to a vegan restaurant where they don't feel like they're missing out on meat options. Any recommendations, Rob Trounce of Purezza, the international award-winning pizzeria based in Camden, among other locations?
This is where I get to toot my own horn, eh? Okay.
Toot away.
Yeah. Do come and check out Purezza. We have won the National Pizza of the Year. We've won the World Pizza Championships against all of the pizzerias, that are serving classic dairy stuff and meat stuff. We were like, nah, you don't need that. We've still got them. The National Pizza of the Year award-winning pizza is still on the menu to this day. The one and only Parmigiana Party. Give it a go.
Yeah.
If they don't like it, then just don't tell me. I'll be upset.
Well, just ditch your friends.
Ditch your friends. Yeah, ditch your friends. But there are. London is awash with great places. I kind of feel like I'm the basic kid here because I'm Brighton based, so I can talk about lovely places in Brighton, but my London recommendations are going to be comparatively basic compared to Sean's, but I would say Mildred's is still fantastic. They've been going for, I feel like they're probably older than all of us put together. They're still going and still churning out incredible vegan food. I do like Neat Burger. I think for your there's something that Neat Burger's milkshakes are. Have you ever had one?
I have. Yeah.
It's
pretty
quite
amazing.
Something. I don't know what they do. It's the best milk. Vegan or not, it's the best milkshake I've ever had. You could go in there. The burgers are great. Don't get me wrong, and it's in the name. They should be pretty good. But I wouldn't blame someone for going in and just ordering 3 milkshakes. They're incredible. But equally, go along to some of Sean's meetups. Goodness me. There's
you need more vegan friends.
That's it.
Yeah. Try 123V on New Bond Street. It's Alexis Gautier's kind of cafe. It's a slightly less formal affair. In fact, you sit outside, but they've got heaters and blankets and stuff.
They also have the downstairs restaurant that you can go into there. So
do they? I didn't even realize.
If you don't want to sit outside, you can go in. It's absolutely beautiful. It's in the basement of the department store of Fenwick, and their food is really on the mark. Like they've got food that anybody will love.
There you go.
I actually went in and had a sort of like a fry up that had crispy bacon bits and sausage and sourdough toast and smoky beans. It was incredible. I can't imagine anyone not enjoying it in there.
The sushi looks unbelievable. So there you go. Give it a go. Hey, that's it. Before the two of you go, well, I mean, Rob, you basically just plugged Purezza, but you should...
Should I do it again? The same thing?
I mean, you could if you want. Well, the point being, before you go, where can people find you and your food? We know about Purezza, but where are you online and stuff?
I have one of those fortunate or semi unfortunate names actually, where it's so unique. The Trounce is a surname. If you stick Rob Trounce into Google, lots of things will come up. It's probably about me, hopefully good things. And yeah, I'm on all the usual things: Instagram, Twitter, etc. LinkedIn. Does anyone use a LinkedIn here?
I mean, I look at it, but I find it very intimidating.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially because when someone's looked at you. I can see you've been looking at me all morning, Jake. I mean, what's going on with that?
Yeah. Well, we'll take that offline.
Yes. So there you go. I'm on all those things. Find me, find Purezza, and let's have a chat.
Brilliant. And Sean?
Well, talking of semi-unfortunate names, you can find me at Fat Gay Vegan. On
why did your parents call you that, man?
Most of the platforms. I know, it's weird, isn't it? I don't know what they were into in the 70s. But I am on Insta. I've lost it now. Okay. Jumping back into it. People can find me on any of the platforms at Fat Gay Vegan. They can go to fatgayvegan.com, where they can find information about product reviews, events I have coming up, such as London Vegan Social, companies that I work with, such as Vegan Culinary Cruises and Temple of Satan. I don't know if I mentioned that yet.
I don't know.
Yes, and people can just reach out to me to say hello. The best place is on Instagram at Fat Gay Vegan. They can see all of the delicious food that I overeat, including Purezza.
And there you have it. Whether you're an OG vegan who's racked up a decade or more, or if this is like your first week of veganism, you are so welcome. And if you're taking the plunge, it's just lovely to have you giving it a go. Thanks so much. I would point you to all the previous podcasts that we've got, which have some amazing tips and tricks for fun food to eat. Before I go, I just want to tell you that next week we've got a really special show for you. Ivana Lynch, the actress who you may know off of Harry Potter, or indeed her brilliant vegan activism and her mad circus skills if you follow her on Instagram. She's going to be with us sharing her desert island dishes. We figured, since vegans constantly get asked what would you do if you're on a desert island with a pig, well, what food would you choose to take to a desert island instead? It's going to be a great listen. I can't wait. I hope you'll subscribe and maybe let some fans know that that's about to drop next week. In the meantime, from all of us here at Vegan Life, don't forget to check out the magazine. Check out veganlifemag.com and consider a subscription or just going and buying it in a shop. We are veganlife_podcast on Instagram. I hope you'll join us there. We'll have some exclusive clips next week of Ivana. In the meantime, from me, Jake Yap, thanks for listening. Bye. This has been a Swanburst Media production.